Hi everyone, it's Renae Jarrett with Not Sorry for the Story, an unapologetic take on current affairs. Well, I am a freelance communicator, journalist for over 20 years in Canada, born and raised. And Not Sorry for the Story is one of the journalistic expressions that I have had the great honor of stewarding first since 2015 in a blog and with the YouTube channel since 2018. Thank you again for viewing the videos, sharing them, subscribing, and giving your feedback. It has been great to hear from all of you. And of course, we know that over the past week, the big news story has been the federal election. But I want to pause for a moment before going into that and look at the good news story of the past week. And that, of course, has to do with Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor being released from imprisonment, detention in China. And that was 1,000 plus days of them being detained. And so I rejoice for them and with their families. And I do pray that they would be fully restored, spirit, soul, and body. And so that is my good news story for the week. And don't you know, we need it here in Canada. We sure do. And so moving on from there, this is your post-election reality check. And so the hard reality of our election is that we are virtually in the same place that we were prior to the election, with a liberal minority government. And so, of course, many are asking, well, did we really have to go there? And oh, that money could have been spent elsewhere. But even in the midst of it, there are some things that we can take away. My major takeaway from this past election is that we need electoral reform. We had about 58 to 60% of those who could vote. And the Liberal Party received 30 to 32% of the 60%. And out of the whole electorate that was eligible to vote, the Liberals received 20% of their vote, or 1 in 5. Wow. Now, if that to you translates as a win for our nation, I think you need to look again on many levels. We have a scenario in our nation where you come out of election saying, who really won here? The Prime Minister went into the election saying, this is an opportunity for Canadians now to put their voice to the matter of the decisions that we'll have to take in the next few weeks. And so he will, of course, take this as a mandate that, okay, I can run with because the people have spoken. But I think even just crunching those numbers, we can see that it was not a resounding win, not even just on the aspect of being a minority government, but just looking at those figures. Again, 20% of the electorate voted for you, and now you're Prime Minister. On the flip side, we have the Conservative Party who again, won the popular vote, but their party leader is not the new Prime Minister. We have the People's Party of Canada that gained great momentum and tripling their support, but that did not translate into one seat. So again, as a Canadian, pardon me, the takeaways are not very encouraging. Even our voter turnout People are losing heart and have felt disappointed. And we really need to have a system that more people can get behind and feel encouraged in, because there's something to be encouraged about, that it's working, that the voice of the people is really being heard. Now, of course, the voice of the people has to be present to be heard. So we have to do our part. But this is something that we really need to look at in Canada. Now, some are saying electoral reform is very hard. And I can understand when you're elected as prime minister, even if you promised to bring in electoral reform, as Prime Minister Trudeau did in 2015, when you come into, like, same way if you moved into a house, you set up shop, you see that things can function, and then you're on with the demands of life. And so for a government to make it a priority, even when it would not necessarily be in their party's best interest, is a challenge. So we need something even outside of the politicians to help us. You know, I think it's very fitting that in our national anthem, it says, God keep our land. We need God, the God of the nations, the Lord of all creation, the Ancient of Days, to help us in this place we find ourselves when man cannot help us alone. And O Canada is a sincere prayer for our nation. I look forward to hearing some of your feedback in terms of your takeaways from the election, and also any electoral reform ideas that you may have. Because currently we have first past the post, and that's why we find ourselves in this place. But yes, I'd love to hear from you. The last video I shared, I said, no matter what comes through those gates, like Maximus said in the movie Gladiator, we're going to stick together. It's how we overcome. And I encourage us to still do that beyond partisan lines, but just for the hope and strength of a nation. My takeaway, apart from electoral reform and that we need it, just like with the two Michaels, it seemed very bleak. But I want to encourage you that more is happening behind the scenes than we know. Let's continue to do our part and our responsibility for this great nation of Canada, expecting that any day now, answers and reform will truly come. Have a great day. I look forward to hearing from you, and let's keep standing on guard.